most precious of times, being parents, mother and father, to a lovely, beautiful child, whose hands and feet look so lovely, God's love showered from above. Let those tiny eyes explore the countless beauties of the external world. Do not stop them. Seeing them bloom from tiny, tiny toddlers into beautiful human beings is the world's most greatest accomplishment ever. So teach them to fly, teach them to dream, but also teach them to love more than ever. Allow them to teach us life lessons, because they are tomorrow's beings. Let them out into the sands, into nature. Allow them to bask into all of nature's glory. Educate them, but not with tons of books, but with tons of real life lessons. Only then will they turn out to be one of the earth's greatest mysteries. Live and let live. Hello. So we're starting with our topic for today. So you already must be knowing what exactly are we talking about today. So we are talking about speech and language developmental milestones. So the therapists out there, you must be exactly knowing what am I talking about. But for the common people out there, I'll be talking a little about what exactly is speech and language developmental milestones. So if you have seen my previous videos, you must be already knowing about it. So in milestones, what you see is that within particular age ranges, you can see a particular developmental pattern. So we'll see what are the developmental patterns within each age range. So today I will be talking about a very compact version of these milestones. But if you want a detailed version of it, you can please mention it in the comments below. I'll get back to you. Okay. So moving on to the first age range, that is birth to 3 months. So birth to 3 months, first in terms of understanding. So what is understanding? Understanding means understanding the language or the concept of the language that we are speaking. So in the first one comes startles at loud sounds. Startles at loud sounds is one of the aspects that comes in hearing also. So with this, you can check if the child is able to hear properly. Okay, so when a very loud sound appears, the child startles, and that response to startle can be either, a cessation of activity. Cessation of activity meaning whatever that activity the child was doing, immediately he or she stops it, or it can be a cry that comes out as a response in terms to startle. So that is one aspect by which you can check if the child's hearing is normal or not. But once again, I'm telling you, that's a very informal assessment of hearing. Okay, so usually we as speech therapists, we recommend children or within the newborn range to actually go for a hearing evaluation, so that any kind of a problem can be ruled out with respect to hearing. And also one more thing is that hearing is a precursor to speech and language. Precursor referring to if you have good hearing, can you have good speech and language. So remember that. Okay, so that's the first thing that happens, startles at loud sounds. Then seems to recognize mother's voice. So right now the child is in the mother's comfort zone. Okay, so slowly the child will start understanding the tone of the voice. Not exactly the tone, but the mother's voice in particular. Okay, the child may not be able to understand others' voices, but will be able to recognize the closest of the family members, that is the mother and the father. So slowly the child will start recognizing, the child will start smiling at the mother. Okay, so that's one very important aspect in this age range. And finally, they smile at close ones also. So the smiling at the close ones usually happens by around the starting of the 3rd month. Okay, so that is what happens. Now moving on to the next one, that is talking. So in terms of talking, or in terms of actually verbally expressing, what are the main features that can be seen? So the first one is that they make cooing sounds. So what is cooing sounds? Cooing sounds meaning like, in the initial, newborn babies, they make some kinds of sound, those cute sounds, you know that, right? So that exactly is called as cooing sounds, but it is not speech-like, okay? So that is important, it's not speech-like, okay? Second thing is that they have a change in cry for needs, okay? So what exactly is change in cry for needs? Initially, once the baby comes home, okay, once the newborn baby comes home, the mother might find it very difficult to understand why is the child crying. Okay, is the child crying because she's hungry, or is it because she's sleepy? The mother is not able to understand. But slowly, as time goes, by the time around 3 months and all that, there's a slight change in cry that happens for the child's needs. So maybe, when the child is hungry, there is a certain type of cry. When the child is sleepy, there is another certain type of cry. So slowly the mother starts understanding also, okay, this is why my child is crying. So that happens around the 3rd month. And at that time, the child starts smiling at people also. So initially, as you had seen from at around the newborn stage and all, the child does not understands only his closest family members. But slowly, by around the end of the 3rd month and all, the child slowly starts smiling at other people in the family. So I hope you understood about the main features that happen within birth to 3 months of age. So moving on to the next one, that is 4 to 6 months. So we'll see what happens in 4 to 6 months, is it? Okay, we'll go with understanding. So in understanding what happens, so first thing that you can see within this age range is that the child starts moving eyes in the direction of the sound. So by this time, maybe if you have like a noise maker, for example, in this picture you can see there is a rattle that is there. Okay, so when you try moving away from the child, some feet away from the child, and then you try shaking the rattle, the child turns his head towards the direction of the sound. So that usually happens at this age range. Okay, the second one is that he actually responds to change in tone of the voice. So initially the child started understanding the voice of the family members and his mother, his father, everyone. And slowly about this age, that is around 4 to the 5th month, you can see that the child starts understanding change in tone of voice. That is, the child starts understanding if the mother is happy or if the mother is upset, or if he is, if she is emotionally down. The child slowly starts understanding that concept. And also, the last one is that the child starts paying attention to music. So music plays a very, very important role in the child's life. So there are a lot of parents, who keep telling me that they want their children to become big artists in the future, or big musicians in the future. So their skills, or the child's skills, has to be, drilled up from a very young age, like for example from around 6 months of age, because the child slowly starts understanding the concept of tone, the concept of rhythm and beat and all that. Okay, so slowly from that age onwards, if you start drilling the child for music, then the child will become exceptionally good in the later stages. So make sure of that. So this is this time when children pay attention to music in a very good manner. So that's about understanding. Now moving on to the next one, that is talking. So in terms of actually speaking, what happens at this age range? So in a 4 to a 6 month baby, you can see that there is a cooing and babbling when playing alone. So you understood what is cooing. Cooing is all those cute noises that they make. Okay, and then comes babbling. So babbling usually starts around 6 months. Around 6 months exactly. So what is exactly babbling? Babbling is when you're making speech-like sounds, or when the child is making speech-like sounds. I can give you an example. Okay, they start combining letters together, or vowels and consonants together. Okay, like for example, they say mama, mama. They just make sound, but it does not exactly sound like mama and baba, but then somewhat similar to that. Like for example, pa 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 ba 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 da da da. That is all examples of speech-like sounds. And also you can see that they giggle and laugh a lot during this time. Yeah, so there are some examples are given here in this picture. You can see ga ga ga, wa wa wa, ba ba ba. These are all some examples. Okay, so this is what happens in terms of talking, or in terms of actually expressing. Okay, so here you can see that these forms of cooing, these babbling and all that the child makes, right? This is one form of expressing their communication, or you can say communication intent. Like when the mother talks to them, it's a kind of a response that they're giving back. So that's a very good form of communication. Okay, and keep checking for all of that throughout the developmental stage. So I hope you understood about what exactly happens in this age range. That's from birth to from 4 to 6 months. Now moving on to the next one and the last one, that is 7 months to 1 year. So in 7 months to 1 year is actually a very crucial stage. So you have to keep in mind all of these things. Okay, so moving on to the first one, that is understanding. So in terms of understanding, what exactly happens? So first thing is that they turn and look in the direction of the sounds. That means their response becomes much better to sounds. They recognize their own name, which is a very big milestone, isn't it? They recognize their own name around this time. So when you call them, they respond. They turn their head or they respond in some way. Also, they understand words for common items. So usually around 8 to 9 months or 9 to 10 months, you can see that they start understanding, or vocabulary slowly starts forming. The concept of words slowly starts forming in their head. Like for example, common objects like table, chair, bed, spoon, plate, all of these are common objects. So whatever is that there in your language, so when you keep telling that to the child, this child slowly starts understanding, okay, so this is the concept of spoon, or this is the concept of table, or this is the concept of chair. So just slowly the child starts understanding these concepts. And also one last thing, which is another major milestone during this age range, that is they respond to simple commands. So what exactly is simple commands? Simple commands meaning, like for example, the mother is telling to the child, baby, go bring that spoon. So go bring the spoon. So the child, that's exactly a one-step command. That's exactly called as one-step command. So the child responds to simple commands and he'll immediately go and bring the spoon if he already has the concept of spoon in his mind. Okay, so that happens during this age range. There is around 10 months to 1 year and all that the child starts understanding. So this is one major milestone area. So please look, take this into consideration. They turn and look in the direction of sounds. They recognize their own names. So that is around this time. If you call them from a distance, they'll respond and they'll come to you. The third thing is that they understand words for common items. And fourth one is that they respond to simple commands. And also they listen to songs and stories for short time. So here you cannot say that they exactly understand what is the concept behind the song and the story, but since they love music, they love rhymes, they love listening to stories, they might hear it for a short amount of time. Moving on to the next one, that is in terms of talking, what happens? So in terms of talking, you can see that the first thing is they use sounds and gestures to keep and get attention. So sounds and gestures meaning what? So that is one of the first steps to communication or expressing their needs. So if they want something, they show an action like give me, or they point to something that they like. So that is also one major milestone. So usually happens around this age, that is 1 to 1.5 years. They point to objects, they show them to others. Yes, and then they use gestures like waving by, raising up hands, etc. happens during this age range. They also start imitating different speech sounds. So that is like imitating different speech sounds means, for example, if you tell them or if you show them how exactly does a dog bark, or how does a cat meow. So once you show them that, they do the exact same thing back. So they start imitating. So imitating is also one very important factor to start your speech and language development, because only through imitation or only through continuous drilling can the child understand the concept. So when they imitate, encourage them even further. Give them a lot of positive reinforcements. Keep encouraging them to imitate. Okay, so that's how your speech and language development happens. And finally, they start saying 1 or 2 words. So this is another major milestone that happens. So here around this time, that is exactly around 1 year, they start saying their first word. So as I mentioned in my previous video, their first word need not be very meaningful. Like for example, they might say mama. but mama might not be meaningful. That is, they might not look at their mother and say mama, but still their first word is mama, and that's of great appreciation. You have to give them good appreciation for that. So keep giving them a lot of language stimulation, keep interacting with them, and they will have a lot more improvement in their speech and language. So guys, I hope you like this video. I hope you found it very useful and informative. So if you have any queries, any comments, you can please drop into the comment section below, or you can drop into my mail ID also. So your views, your subscriptions, your comments, everything is very important for me. Only then can I create more important content in the future. So please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Stay home and stay safe.